Hello and welcome to the second part of the lesson on Roman Empire clothing and fashion. Let's pick up with hairstyles and headdresses. Men, Republicans, beards, relatively long hair, what you expect. But by the imperial period, Rome wanted to be seen as more of a stabilizing influence on civilization, so to distinguish themselves from the barbarians, beards were cut and shaved, hair was worn shorter to make them look more civilized. A rite of passage for young men to have long hair that was cut short in a ceremonial haircut when they received their first toga. It's kind of like a bar mitzvah for the Romans. You would get your toga and your haircut. And then if you were an upper class men, you would use your calamistrums. Remember those from the Greeks? To curl your hair. A very popular style around the 1st century AD was the Caesar cut. First popularized by Julius Caesar, which is a horizontal straight cut. Bangs that were combed forward. Also revived, I think, in the 80s and 90s by George Clooney for a long time. Around 100 AD, the Emperor Hadrian popularized beards once again. Hadrian was a soldier, so he served in the frontier in Gaul and in Britain, so he had that sort of soldier outlook. Had a beard then, still good now. A headdress that was popular at the time was the galeras. You can see it in the bottom right, which is a soft, close-fitting cloth cap. Women at the time wore their hair long, particularly in the Republican era, curled or braided, pulled back in a knot. Now, by the imperial period, as they saw themselves more and more as the center of the world, Roman women were always trying to outdo each other. So we get more complex hairstyles. A lot of upper-class household had a slave, or at least a skilled laborer, known as an ornatrix, who was good at hairdressing. And one of the most representative hairstyles, particularly of the imperial period, is the Flavian hairstyle. This is it. Massive curls, natural curls, artificial curls, extensions, we would say, framing the face and pulled back into a corkscrew bun, and then held in place with bone or metal pins. It wasn't uncommon to have a pad of material under all that mass. So this here is... Let me get my pen. You can see up here, there's probably a pad under there if this are real. And then curls and extensions. Very popular, very representative of the period. Blonde hair was prized. Blonde wigs were made from the hair of captured Northern European women. High demand. And then we start to see hairstyles simplify again towards the end of the empire. And then hairnets of fine gold were usually placed over. Okay, footwear, accessories. There's a lot. I'm just going to go through them. So just to show you the depth and variety of Roman footwear. The most basic and earliest is the carbatina, which is basically this oxhide sole, lacings over the foot. Formal outdoor shoes in the Republican era was the calceus. You can see here which cover the whole foot and laced up to the ankle, sort of a proto-boot. Calceus senatorum for senators, and then a red leather calceus worn by the emperor, the Mulius. Usually when you see something with an imperial family in it, you'll see those red leather calceus. Calci. The campagus, first worn by soldiers, then adopted by senators and emperors. The solia, you can see at the bottom, of informal indoor sandal made of intricate cut leather. The crepida, thick-soled half shoes, elaborate design, cut leather work, believed to be formal indoor dining wear. We think that's what it's mentioned more than and described, but there's really no it's made of leather, so there's not really a lot of extant evidence of those. So we think this is kind of what it looked like. Very elaborate there. So, okay. Let's move on to cosmetics, used both by men and women. The most common cap application was a white lead base. You can see here that was mixed with animal fat. Again, white. The thing about lead is if you bury it in some gooey stuff, and again, sorry, if you pee on it and bury it, it becomes this white flaky stuff after a while. And then it makes a real thick, it's almost like clown white makeup. If you have a blemish or pox scars, you would put some cloth patches underneath. Then you would slap this on your face. You get some ground red ochre rouge, and you're good to go. And then a ruby red used for lipstick. Heavy eye makeup similar to kohl, saffron eyeshadow, um, black outline. So pretty, to us, it's starting to look pretty macabre, sort of this cabaret makeup, but it was quite normal for formal Roman occasions. Not going to go much over jewelry. They liked them. They loved rings. The tradition of taking the most prized ring off the finger of a dying paterfamilias and bestowing it on the heir to show that that's the new paterfamilias. Signet rings, so forth. This is what men wear. Women usually wore earrings, necklace, and bracelets. Very elaborate earrings were prized, so they were proud of their earrings. And you can see these are two here. This and these are, recovered actual Roman earrings. You can see, so there's a lot of good work in it, gone into them. Specialty costumes. Priests wore fringed togas to show distinction. The Vestal virgins wore veils similar to the bridal flammeum. It was saffron colored, so I guess a bride of the temple sort of thing. And of course, talking about augurs, prophets wore the toga trebia, multicolored or striped. Military. There's a bit more sophisticated. They had a very powerful military. You can see this man here. He's got his feminalia on. Tunic, a tunica interior. You can see peeking out here, right? Close to the skin. Then a muscle cuirass of molded leather, two-piece, hinged on the side. And then generals and emperors usually wore a ceremonial cuirass made of bronze and decorated with intricate filigree and repoussé. The pallidimentum, worn by emperors and generals, was a large red or purple cloak, fastened on one shoulder with a fibula or brooch. And then a more common type of that is the sagum, which is a simple square of red wool fastened at the throat. So the big difference is quality. The pallidimentum is longer and better thread count. The sagum is just, wool dyed maybe bloody red. Excuse me. Simpler and not as long. Armor for the common soldiers was made of iron and called the lorica. The lorica hamada, as you can see, is this type of chainmail. Imperial soldiers had the lorica segmentata, which is this plate mail overlapping and sewn onto a leather tunic. So there it is. This is an interesting thing. You can kind of see here a baltius, which is a belt, you can see there, with leather plates attached. And if you were an office holder, like a centurion or general, you would have a narrow apron made of brass or gold attached to the baltius, as you can see here. So this is a common soldier, common baltius, and then these are the accoutrements of generals and centurions. Helmets, the most common is the Gallic helmet, as you can see here, which had little horsehair flaps that were hinged. Centurions or generals usually had a plume to show that they are in charge. Very nice, even though it still has the hinged ear flaps, you have a much more elaborate design. And then the scutum, the shield there. Long, curved wooden shield, usually embossed with metal. And then a long, slender javelin and a short stabbing sword called a gladius. And, of course, leg greaves. Whoop. Gladiator, taken from the word gladius. Basic attire, leather belt, subaculum, maybe some greaves, maybe a leather bandolier. Two types, the secutor and the retiarius. The secutor, usually better armored, oblong shield with a helmet, thin crest and small eye holes, a manica, which is this padded, heavy linen sleeve, and then a dagger and a gladius, usually matched up against a retiarius, which is no helmet, no armor. A high metal shoulder called the galeris, metal shoulder guard called the galeris, yes, like the cap. I'm not sure what the connection is. And then a net and trident. So you would have the army tank against the guy who's kind of light and mobile. Barbarians. I put these in here because we start to see pants. Trousers are starting to come around. What? Brightly colored, made from dyes from woad and madder plants because they had plenty of them. tied at the waist with rope or leather. What we might kind of call modern day pajama pants. But at the time they were pretty ferocious. So the guys in their plaid pants are running forward and scaring the bejesus out of the tuniced Roman soldiers. Germanic tribes wore wool trousers with a twill pattern, sometimes dyed from woad, then a long tunic made of wool, and then a wool cloak, like a sagum. So you can see here he's even got some plate mail, scale mail, or something, I believe. So that was your Germanic tribe of the day. And of course, the Laina, which we talked about in part 1, was highly prized with throughout the European tribes. Celts wore this interesting type of accessory called the torque, which is made of twisted braids of gold or bronze, a status symbol for chiefs and heroic warriors. You could twist it onto your neck, and in place it's a soft, like I said, it's soft bronze or gold, so it's not that hard. It looks like, you have to grow it around or build it on, but it twists pretty easily. It torques. I guess what I call that. Very fine, particularly among the Celts. Very beautiful craftsmanship on those things. Okay, some quick examples. Obviously, emperors. Tons of emperors. Trajan, Caligula, which is little boots. Means Augustus, you can see in his Paludamentum. Always these emperors dressed up as soldiers to show their martial might. Julius Caesar was actually a soldier, as was Hadrian. All pretty much the same. You can see these in their crepida, the imperial guard here. Tunics, cuirass, and then the campaign shoes that they are wearing. So, and you wouldn't know this, but the Statue of Liberty is wearing a palla and a stola. How about that? To kind of show the majesty of imperial Rome, linked to the majesty of democratic America. So, things you did not know. And of course, the movie Gladiator, you can see here some senates and their togas with the black striping. You can see, what's his name, Russell Crowe there, in his segmented armor. And there's some Imperial Guard there in the purple, Tyrian purple. This guy's not Roman, by the way. Tyrian purple there in tint, so you know they work for the Emperor. There's a miniseries on HBO called Rome, which had some really nice costumes. You can see these women here, and here's a good example of the stola palla combination and sort of contrasting her harmonious colors. Some soldiers, these are officers, obviously. And then here we are seeing, so you can see all the bright colors, really. There's a trabea, it's striped, toga trabea there. Looks like that may be a flammeum, so maybe they're going to get married. Just a couple of things. There's a movie called The Eagle that was about, I think, Britain, Rome. So you can see a Celtic warrior woman there with woad to give her a ferocious look. And then the soldiers behind a shield wall with their scutum. Scuti, we want to say, because it's plural. There's a really tacky show on, I won't say tacky, it was kind of salacious, though. Spartacus. So you can see the Spartacus and the sublegaculum there. Get a closer look at that. And the Galeras shield guard. And then some nice ones. Now, again, they didn't wear these kind of bustiers in Imperial Rome, but so there's some poetic licenses there. Let's look at quickly some fashion shows. We have Vera Wang in 2008, who based her design on toga, or excuse me, stola palla. Very stola-esque there. Elisab, inspired by Roman draperies from statues. And then Valentino, also kind of Roman drapery style. A little more freer, goes further away from the Romans, but that was an inspiration. And then you can buy, I think it's still there, $25,000 Roman helmet on Etsy. So think about that for your next, put that on your Christmas list there. Very stylish. Okay, that's all of it. Thank you for listening and thank you for indulging. And I will talk to you again at the next lesson. Hello everyone, and welcome to the next set of lessons on the costuming of ancient Rome. Once again, this will be a two-part slideshow, so we'll go ahead and get started. There's a lot of information about the Roman Empire.